Happy birthday, me.
Yes, happy birthday, fella.
April the 23rd, St George's Day, the patron saint of England, and another of the great scribes. I say another because I kind of like to think of myself as such.
Do you? Think others do.
No, William Shakespeare was not just born on this day.
He died on this day.
Unusually, he died on this day. And here's another very strange but true fact. I was born on St George's Day, as I've mentioned. Andrew here was born on
St Andrew's Day.
patron saint of Scotland.
Yes.
You couldn't make that up.
No, you couldn't. Why were you not called George then?
I think it was a consideration.
Was it? See, but the thing is, I wasn't called Andrew because of St Andrew's Day. My mum had no idea. Way back then, I was called after my uncle Andy. There you go.
So what have we got on offer today? We're going to be talking to the best commentary partnership. I said this yesterday when they weren't listening. I'm happy to say it again. The best commentary partnership, bar none, since Andy Gray hung his mic up.
Agreed.
We're very fortunate in this part of the world. We listen to them regularly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Peter Drury and Andy Townsend, who we will be with very shortly. That's not to say we don't enjoy listening to Jim Beglin.
No.
Did Jim play?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Who for?
Well, I think you get a little clue through his commentaries sometimes. Liverpool, I think it was.
He played for Liverpool?
Yes,
I would never.
You'd never have known that.
I would never have guessed that. And this is a subject I'd like to hope I need to address for the very last time. To those of you who have been kind enough to contact me on Twitter, the size of my head is something I have no control over.
Oh, you're getting sticks then?
I don't have hairy hands.
Not anymore?
Not anymore. So you're wasting your time with all of that. Let me try and explain this again. The reason I said I wish it was a club other than Newcastle United is so that I could talk about another club other than Newcastle United. Not that I have concerns about whether Saudis are buying that club, or it could be Watford, it might be Chutney. I don't care. The principle is the very same. Let me read you this from the Times today. Less than a year ago, it was revealed that 9 separate law firms in Saudi Arabia had refused to act on behalf of the Premier League against the pirate broadcaster beIN. Last September, the Premier League stated an independent report, this is the Premier League, confirms without question, excuse me, let me change page. beIN's pirate broadcasts have been transmitted using satellite infrastructure owned and operated by Arabsat, a Riyadh-based satellite provider partly owned by the Saudi government and other Gulf states. Now, the point I've been trying to make is that for 3 years, our broadcasts have been stolen, regurgitated onto satellite receivers via subscription cards by pirate broadcaster. Now, let me put this simply for those in the UK that don't understand. I mentioned this example the other day. That's like Sky, and you pay your subscription to Sky to watch football, having their rights broadcast by ITV for nothing. But that's just part of the equation. Then the pirate broadcaster sells adverts to bring revenue stream and subscriptions to bring revenue stream, and therefore the ultimate conclusion to the theft of sports rights is that they become worthless.
Worthless, yeah.
And on that basis, you think you've got a crisis now with the problems that there are between television and getting this league finished. You would have then. That's why, in my opinion, the Premier League have no choice but to stop the purchase of Newcastle United by Saudi Arabia. And if any other broadcaster were doing the same thing, I think we would have been talking about this a lot sooner. Other sports rights holders should also raise an objection, whether they be F1, rugby, whoever they are. Because, I repeat, the natural conclusion to this is that rights become worth nothing. Now, let me also add, to those of you who have been questioning my impartiality on this, at no point in my time in Qatar has anybody told me what to say, has stopped me from saying what I wanted to say. This is an opinion that not just I have, but those of us who live and work in this country share. Not interested in the politics, that's for somebody else to worry about. Not interested in the way others lead their lives in different parts of the world, that's for others to worry about. I'm talking about, very simply, a legal matter of the theft of sports rights by, if not a government-backed scheme, and therefore, if the Premier League have any backbone, and I believe they do, then the answer to this takeover is they cannot let this one happened. There's another one on the table. That's the one to let go. Now, I hope my position
It's a good way to start your birthday.
You've just heard Peter Drury chuckling in the background.
Yeah.
I hope that we can put an end to it, but I'm glad that people now are at least talking about it,
People are
because
talking
it's
about it.
just wrong, Andy. Plain wrong. Okay, one or two other bits and pieces from the newspapers quickly. National League clubs have voted to end the regular season. So that's now down
What are they doing with promotion and relegation?
Don't know, they haven't decided.
Haven't decided.
David Moyes has been delivering fruit and was tipped quite heavily by one young lady. Gave him a £5.
No. I bet he took it as well.
Actually, he didn't. He saved it in the next delivery. I think he said the woman didn't have quite enough to pay, and he said, I've got enough left over.
I'll use my tip.
Not for the first time. Tottenham players caught out breaking lockdowns. I mean, please, boys. Aurier,
What were they doing?
Just in the park, and they actually went to they posted videos.
Well, I mean, are they just going in for a run, training?
Yes, but they weren't socially distancing.
Well, how
On the subject, and this is a Twitter follower who did contact me with useful information on the subject of Arsenal. Ozil, Mesut Ozil.
Yes.
The former Germany international sent an army of kit to underprivileged children recently to Kenya. Ozil wrote on Instagram after seeing one of the lads receive a shirt, look at Lawrence, it's so heartwarming to see him and his brothers happy. His gestures have not stopped there. Ozil's agent said last year that the Arsenal playmaker had also paid for 1,000 vital operations for children across the world and fed 100,000 homeless people at 18 refugee camps in Turkey and Syria, and paid £240,000 to fund operations for sick children in Brazil. Footballers do an awful lot.
Yeah, they do. We've said that all along.
He's getting battered at the minute because he said, I'm not taking a pay rise. Well, maybe that's where some of his pay goes.
Cut. He would definitely take a pay rise.
Yeah. That's all I've got really for today. So we probably should introduce our first guest.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Who is the aforementioned Peter Drury. Peter, how are you?
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Richard. Hello, Andy. Good to speak to you. You're looking well.
And you? How are you coping with lockdown?
Truthfully, coping fine, Andy. Thank you. But of course, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm surrounded by family. The sun, for once, in springtime is shining in the UK. And I'm exercising and reading books and living a very gentle life, which is not to say, of course, that I'm not missing the buzz hugely, because while it's gone, as you will understand, from being ridiculously busy as a matter of habit to being not busy at all.
Yeah,
and it's a big difference.
Why we wanted to talk to Peter, because commentators are a strange breed.
Yes, I found that, yes, over the years.
They feed off statistics.
Well, I was going to say that. What does a commentator do now, Richard? Right? Every day of Peter's life, I'm sure, in normal life, he would be updating his facts. They change on a daily basis almost. Right now, nothing's changing for the last 4 weeks. What do you do? How do you occupy yourself, Peter?
Well, as I say, Andy, I'm doing things which are not football related. And actually, it's not a bad thing to be in some sort of cold turkey, coming off the drug. And understanding that there is life beyond it. I mean, clearly there's a massive narrative around it at the moment about how it's going to come through this and how it's going to restart if and when it does restart. But actually living a life that doesn't involve constantly being across stuff is quite interesting and quite gentle. I mean, the weekend that the Premier League was called off was midway through for me a ridiculous spell. I'd been to Leipzig with Tottenham for BT Sport here in the UK on the Tuesday. I'd been due in Athens with Wolves on the Thursday, but wisely they said, no, you can do that from HQ in London. And so I came back from work at midnight on Thursday, and I had Friday to be ready for a game at Watford on Saturday, West Ham on Sunday, and was mostly prepared for those. And then on the Monday night, you'll recall, was going to be the Merseyside derby.
Yeah, it was.
Which, if Manchester City had not won the previous day, could have been the game that won the title for Liverpool.
Absolutely.
So you'll be delighted to know I couldn't really be ready for that one yet because it was all pending what happened with Manchester City. And then it went on to a Champions League game on Tuesday and Wolves' second leg on Thursday. And so I had a pile of work as, knee high, and it all became useless.
Peter, for those who don't understand the technicalities of it, when you say I did it here at base, what actually do you mean by that when you're doing a match commentary?
Well, as you know, but as you rightly say, others wouldn't, we have this concept called an off-tube commentary, which is where, for whatever reason, sometimes truthfully financial, sometimes logistical, and in this case, uniquely because of COVID-19, the decision is taken that the commentator doesn't need to be or shouldn't be at the venue itself, but sits in a little booth and kind of pretends to be at the venue. Actually, on this occasion, we didn't pretend to be at the venue. We were absolutely upfront and said, listen, guys, it's best for us not to be there. So we're sitting watching the game, and the commentator is only seeing, on those occasions, what the viewer is seeing. Those are the television pictures. And I know I'm not alone amongst commentators in absolutely hating it, because the first rule they tell you, we don't always stick to it. I know you can give me a lot of stick on this, but the first rule given to commentators is only speak when you can add to the picture. And when the picture is self-evident and everybody can see what you can see, there ain't a great deal to add, especially when there's nobody in the ground. And frankly, it was a pretty rugby game as well. So all in all, Wolves Olympiacos won't make my memoirs.
I always felt that I'm like you, Peter. I always hated when I was being told way back that you've got to do this game off tube. And I used to go, oh no, because you don't get
because
the
you
full
can't
picture.
Feel the game, Andy, can you?
You don't get the full picture.
Game.
No.
Peter, will you have the courage?
Oh.
Will you have the courage when we go again to utter the immortal line of, in a trice, Firmino scores for the first time in 3 months. That ends his drought.
That is a good line. But goodness me, this is distorting some of those stats, isn't it? That's a good thought, Andy, actually. I mean, what numbers matter anymore? I like to think, and again, you'll probably slaughter me for this, that I'm not one of those that's too constrained by statistics. I find them dull, as I know you often do. So, nevertheless, they do come into play.
Yes.
And if we add 3 months onto everything, then that is going to be interesting. Yeah.
By the way, did you do at Liverpool Atletico?
No, I didn't. I was in Leipzig the previous night.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
but so there's obviously a lot of chat around that now.
Yeah.
As there is around Cheltenham.
Yes, of course.
The horses, yeah. So, in fact, my son went to Cheltenham, and he's been okay. But
good.
Yeah, it's you wonder, don't you?
Yeah.
I must say, I don't like to be too judgmental about these things because we're all brilliant with hindsight, you know.
Yes.
And people, even at the top of government and the top of sporting bodies, you know, okay, it's their job to look after us and have advice, but they're dealing with stuff they just couldn't have foreseen or couldn't have understood. Everybody is doing this for the first time.
Of course. We're about to talk to your mate, or
Yes.
one of. I mean, I know you work with an abundance of co-commentators, but what is it you're looking for from the person sitting next to you?
Oh,
don't interrupt.
What I can't see. I want always a professional check on myself. If I'm getting excited, carried away about the football match, I want him to either tell me I'm right or wrong about that. You know, to explain the football to me. Mm-hmm. I'm just an observer of football. I really never was any good at it. You know, I was the second team goalkeeper. I like to.
By the way, that's another common thing about commentators. They're never any good at playing football. But I mean, Martin Tyler will tell you he was the greatest centre forward in the world, but he wasn't.
No, he
Alan
wasn't.
Parry,
useless. On a
useless.
weekly basis.
John Motson was
yes.
the worst footballer I've ever played with. Big heart, lots of effort, but hopeless. Honestly, a second team goalkeeper. That's not even that's nowhere near the first 11.
No.
No. But the serious answer to your question is that I think, and this has often been said before, as the commentator, it's my job to say who and when and possibly where. But as the co-commentator, it's the job to answer the questions how and why. Because those are the things that you really only understand, I think, if you've played the game to a very high level. To see shape, to interpret shape, to tell me something that as a regular football fan, and essentially that's all I am, as a regular football fan, I can't necessarily see for myself.
Yeah, I was given that kind of advice way back 20 odd years ago by my boss, and he said, what I want you to do, Andy, is tell me something I don't know or I don't see.
Well,
it's quite simple, isn't it?
Peter, listen, thank you for talking to us. We're about, as I said, to talk to your mate, but I'm just wondering, when you were second team goalkeeper, did you ever win Club Man of the Year? That's a fairly condescending award for someone that's not very good.
I have won various Club Man of the Year awards down here. Yeah, I have. That's what you get, Keezy. That's what you get if you're a good egg, but not very good.
Peter, you are a good egg.
You are a good egg.
Repeatedly.
Keep it going.
Thanks, Peter.
It's been great. We'll hopefully listen to you again shortly.
Give my love to Andy.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, pal.
And so then to the other half of what, and he hadn't previously heard what I have said, so I'll repeat it. Since you hung your microphone up, Andy, the best commentary duo you will find on air. And we're very lucky in this part of the world that we hear them regularly. Andy Townsend joins us. Andy, how are you?
Andra?
Richard, Andy, I'm good. And that's, listen, very, very kind of you. My goodness, coming from you two, that's praise indeed.
It happens to be true, fella. By the way, just quickly, what are you doing in the sauna with all your clothes on?
It's very true, actually. No, we're currently residing in a beautiful place in the Cotswolds that I don't own.
Lovely.
It's not ours because we're having a house up the road completely renovated, which you can imagine at the moment has all stopped.
Oh no!
Quite rightly. So we're here in someone else's house. It's not a sauna, and I must say, but it is very, very lucky, very beautiful. We're very lucky where we live here. It's glorious.
Andy, this may come as a bit of a surprise to you, but we enjoyed talking to Peter, and he was quite funny.
Listen, Pete is very funny. Let me tell you, he's very funny. He's a great guy. He's great at what he does. He devotes. I mean, football is Pete's love and his life and his profession. He absolutely adores it, and you can tell that in the way that he commentates. You know, every game. Some games we sit there, and you guys will have done it many times over the years, where you sit and watch a game and you think, "No, that wasn't very good today. That was awful." Pete will always come away and say, "Do you know what? I quite like that. I quite enjoyed a bit of that today." There was parts of that, and in the end, you have to go, "Pete, shut up. That was horrible. That was useless. That was rubbish today. We didn't see anything." You know. So, but he's great at what he does, and he's lovely to work with.
Let me put some meat on the bone. The introduction wasn't as perhaps as grand as it should have been. Former Republic of Ireland captain, played for Chelsea, Southampton, Middlesbrough, once halved Dennis Wise at Wembley.
Did you mention Villa?
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember? Dennis still remembers.
He does that.
Oh, sorry, Wisey.
Indeed.
I thought you were going to top me. Is that correct?
That's very true. It's very true. He was a former teammate of mine, and it was that the ball was bouncing between the two of us, and I know Wisey better than most, believe you me. And when in that little moment when the ball is there between the two of you, you have a little look up, and if he's looking at you, I know he ain't going for the ball. You know what I mean? So it's one of those. In that scenario, it's you have to look after yourself. And
So
I know what Dennis is like. Believe me, he can do that.
It does pay dividends to know the reputation of the guys you're playing against, Andy.
Certainly does, and certainly does. I come from that era where there was a few of them knocking around, and there was some that were very, very, very good at it. And you had to be careful.
Anyone do you, Andy? Anyone get you?
Oh, plenty, and plenty did get me. Yeah. I remember once. I mean, I was lucky. I played with Jimmy Case, and Jimmy was like a footballing Bible to me. He like educated me on those that I had to keep my eye out for, and those that we didn't. And I mean, I played against Suey and some of those, you know. And of course, whenever you used to go out there against those guys, you was always a little bit mindful of that sort of scenario maybe happening. So yeah, I was schooled very well, let me tell you.
Now, I mentioned Middlesbrough, Andy. Everywhere we've been and when we've spoken to you, I ask you to tell the story of golfing with Gazza. Having mixed with Gazza is a bit like if you've met Bill Shankly, everybody's got a Shankly story.
Cloughie. Everyone's got a Cloughie story.
Gazza story, Andy Townsend, Middlesbrough colleague, two of them on the golf course. Andy, I'll leave it with you.
So we used to finish training most days, and then it was a case of we'd either play golf, and when he got into something, Gaz, as you well know, he'd do 72 holes in a day. Not a problem for him on a day off. You know, he'd play 18, another 18, and until everyone else was exhausted, and he'd just keep playing and keep going. So he really got into his golf, and so we finished training one day at Middlesbrough. We went to Slaley Hall, with a lovely, beautiful club, and we got a couple of caddies. We had a couple of young lads who were caddying for us, and I'd actually got myself a new club. At the time, it was the Callaway, the great Big Bertha.
Oh, yes.
When that, do you remember that, Ant?
The Big Bertha, Callaway Big Bertha, yeah.
And of course, it was one of the, you know, with that club, I did what happens every time with golf clubs. On the driving range, you hit half a dozen and you sort of think, wow, that ain't bad, that feels quite good. The minute you buy it and put it in the bag, it becomes a completely different club. It becomes one that you can no longer hit anywhere. It's going over this way, that way. Anyway, I was knocking this ball everywhere, but anywhere on the fairway. And I said to this young caddy, I said to him, would you, look, you have a go with this club? I said, because I'm not very good with it. So sure enough, this young boy, he's about 14, tees it up, bang, pops it down the middle. Next hole, I said, go on, have another go, bang, again, pops it down the middle. So when we finished the round, I'd made my mind up that I was going to let this young kid have the club.
Nice.
So anyway, we finished playing. I give the young caddy a few quid for carrying the bag, and I said, look, this is for you as well. I said, get your dad to chop it down a bit, put a new grip on it. I said, and that will keep you right for oh, thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much. You know, so I've given him this club, and away he goes. This kid's made up. And Gazza looks at me and goes, it's a nice touch. Because he is one of the most generous guys you've ever met. And he was always like that. And he said, that's a nice touch, you know. He made his day there.
You gave it to him because you couldn't play with it. You just didn't like it.
So, yeah, I said to him, I said, look, you have it. I said, because I can't do a thing with it. I said, I'm hopeless with it. And so anyway, so we go in and have a sandwich and a cup of tea, and then we finish that. And I'm actually then driving back down to the Midlands to my family because I've got a day off the following day. And when I came out of the clubhouse, I went into the loo, washed my hands, and away we go, getting in the car. Gazza has gone with Jimmy Five Bellies. They've gone 2 or 3 minutes before me. And when I come out to the car park, obviously normally your clubs are outside somewhere, just sat there waiting, aren't they, to put in the car. And when I got out, there's just a bag there. There's no clubs in it at all. All the clubs have gone. Everything's gone completely. And Gazza's caddy was sat there still waiting, I think, for someone to take him home. And I said to him, here, mate, what's going on here? I said, where's all my clubs? And he said, your caddy's got them all. And I said, my caddy's got them all? He said, Gazza gave them to him. He said, you were crap with the rest of them as well. And so there you go. So, and I've toned that down a little bit. But, you know, so he was, yeah, listen, I had a lot of fun. Funny, I was talking about him the other day to someone. We were reminiscing about players and about midfield players. And again, as I mentioned, I come from a generation where there were some fantastic midfield players that were of the all-round variety. Yeah. They were up and downers, which I was, and so it was very different to the way that we kind of pigeonhole them and the way that we label midfield players of today. But Gazza was great to play with. I never saw him at his absolute best, which was probably up in Scotland at Rangers. But he was a pleasure to play with, and I saw flashes of the brilliance that obviously he had, and it was great, good fun.
How are you getting on without the football?
Yes.
It's, do you know what, listen, for my wife and I here, there's only my wife and I here, our youngest boy is 24, he's a cameraman, he works at all the games that we cover. So he's with his girlfriend, the eldest boy's married, they're expecting another one soon, so that's a little bit of a worry, obviously. Our daughter-in-law's she's only about 8 weeks away from their second baby. My daughter's not far away in Stratford-upon-Avon, 10 miles from here. She's fine. So look, we've got no reason, compared to what many are suffering during this time, it's no hardship, but it's just very strange. It's just very, very, very odd to not be jumping up and going to a game or the phone ringing and talking about football and thinking about football. It's very, very different. And but again, as I say, compared to what so many are having to endure, you know, look, the sun is shining. We've had incredible weather here. I don't know if you know, guys, over the last few weeks, we've had amazing weather here.
And you're inside.
And it continues to shine. So, but it's just very odd, and I must admit, I am missing it.
Yeah,
You'll appreciate, Andy, it's not a major event for us, sunshine. It's
yes.
It's not.
I've got news for you, Andy. The sun is shining. Yes.
I know, it is a major event for us here, let me tell you, you know that. And
Is Jackie not fed up with you?
Here over the last 3 or 4 months.
Is Jackie not fed up with you, Andy?
Unbelievable. So it's glorious to see the sun shining, but the streets are empty. The town where I live in, the Cotswolds, is usually visited by tons of people, and it's a little thriving community, and the streets are empty. It's very strange.
Jackie not fed up with you being home every day yet?
Well, no, actually, Mrs. T has been very good, and we seem to have been doing just fine so far. We take the dog for a walk. The dog, I think, has been. We've got a very large dog. We've got a Newfoundland. He's a huge dog, and so he likes exercise, but I don't think he likes as much as he's getting at the moment. He normally runs a mile when I get the lead. You know, where is he? He's gone. But no, look, we're all good. We're fine. We're fine.
Listen, Andy, when finally football returns, we look forward to hearing from you again.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, my friend, stay safe, and thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks, Andra. Love to Jackie.
Good to see you, Anne. Good to see you, Richard. Take care,
Cheers,
guys.
thanks, buddy. That's Andy Townsend, the other half of Drury and Townsend.
The better looking half, by far. Easy.
What, Peter?
No, Peter's not. You're joking. No chance. That's no contest, by the way. Andrew's a good-looking boy. Yeah, no doubt.
Listen, I repeat the message to all of you watching. But beIN Sports, 5 days a week, you'll find us at these same times. We're on YouTube for international viewers, and our message is always the same at this point. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Absolutely.